just want to quickly talk about the topic of grief. So grief is one of those individual experiences that humans get to go through. Grief is not something that when we cross over into the afterlife that we will experience. There is no awareness of separateness or judgment, so grief does not exist. But most of us know that there are stages of grief, and it's usually referred to as the 7 stages of grief. So we've got shock, so almost like, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened, and it can feel very surreal. And then we've got denial, which I'm very familiar with. It's in denial in terms of just that kind of behavior in general, but the denial of the fact that that this has actually happened and that someone's gone. And that can bring up some strange behaviors as well. Bargaining, so where we will say, just take me, like I'll swap, or can I just have it a different way for that person to be back, or for that situation to be back? Because remember, grief doesn't just happen when people die. It happens when relationships die. It happens when things come to an end that maybe we didn't really want. Then there's guilt, where we blame ourselves. Anger, so where, I don't really need to explain anger, but it's where around grief, which is where, like, why did you let this happen? And we'll find anything to blame for it to happen, and maybe it's ourselves. Depression, where we retreat, and we find it difficult to find any will to keep going or any motivation to keep going. And then finally, after depression usually comes an acceptance of sort of the situation. It might not be really in understanding why, but there is an acceptance as to what has occurred. Now, from a spiritual perspective, from our people, our loved ones in spirit that have crossed over, that we may be grieving, this is something that a lot of mediums will talk about, and it's not something that we say lightly, and it's not something that is just something that we say to make people feel better either. It's actually a real thing. They do not want to be responsible for your suffering. They do not want to be responsible for your grief, your sadness, your guilt, your shame, your disbelief, your depression. They don't. They understand that it's part of the human process, but they don't want to be a reason for it. So if you're someone specifically who is struggling with grief about someone who has passed away, and you're feeling that this person might judge you if you're smiling and laughing again, if they might think that if they can see you, then maybe if I'm getting on with my life and I'm happy and I'm finding maybe a new relationship, or I'm finding new beginnings, that person would be upset with me, or maybe we're playing it small because we're afraid that they will. I'm here to tell you they don't. They actually see what is for your highest good, just like I do, and that's all they want for you. If they loved you, which they did if they were in some kind of dance with you in the human form, then all they ever want is what is for your highest good. And joy and happiness is always for our highest good. So don't put it on them. Don't blame them. Don't use them as an excuse to not live fully. They definitely do not want to be the reason why you are choosing to not live fully. So I know that this is just a very specific area of grief that I'm talking about, but I know also in my job that a lot of people deal with this. So I thought I'd just do a quick share on what it's like for the people in the spiritual realm, and the way they see it. They just want their loved ones to live. Just live.